Welcome back, everybody. Richard Bigger, Shanghai-based social entrepreneur, talking to my good friend Monique Maisson from Waste2Wear. And she and I just had a phenomenal conversation about her 12, 13 years of building an organization that takes plastic bottles, turns into that fiber, which then become these clothes, and everything in between. We talk about the politics of plastic, we talk about being an entrepreneur, we talk about the need to join organizations and grow through this experience. So really hope you enjoyed this. I know I certainly did, as always. Thank you very much for your time, Monique. This is phenomenal.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. My name is Monique Maisson, and I'm the founder and CEO of Waste2Wear. And Waste2Wear is a company who specialized in making textile products from recycled plastic.
Recycled plastic is a very big topic these days, but you got in this way before it was hot. So how long have you been doing this, and what brought you into the idea of using recycled plastics?
We started this in 2007.
Okay.
And the idea came from the fact that I actually always, as a textile engineer, was very concerned about the whole textile industry, and as being very polluting and very negative for the environment and also for the humanitarian side of the story. And then the moment that I came across the invention that you could make from recycled plastic bottles, that was then at this moment, the only thing, yarns, that I thought, well, this is something which could possibly be something finally that the textile industry can do good. There was nothing being done in China yet, nothing in India, and it was starting to develop in Taiwan. That was actually coming from there with some United States influence, as I later understood. So what I did, I just booked a ticket, flew to Taiwan, not knowing what I was going to see, and went to the guy I read about, and that turned out to be a very nice guy and a beautiful company starting. Now they're very big. And then we said, okay, you know, can we do something together? And so I said I would like to try. So initially we started with yarns from Taiwan and with pellets from Taiwan, and then started to develop it here.
Okay. If I were looking at this yarn here, how much of that is plastic bottles at present, and how far can you take this at this point? Like technologically, how far can you take recycled plastics into the yarns before it becomes a material problem or something that your customers don't want?
Well, basically, recycled plastic, polyester, nice and easy to handle product.
Yeah.
So, depending on if you mix it with something, you can make it in 100% recycled plastic, like these things are 100% recycled plastic, or you just cut them in fibers and then you mix it in a fiber with like cottons, or you make a filament and that you mix that filament with two others into something, so you make a blend of fabric two different ways. It's either the base is the same as a polyester, so basically it's a very good material to work with.
And so then the mix could then theoretically be the same as just a raw polyester that was virgin itself.
Yeah, it is actually the same. It has some differences in characteristics, which you have to deal with. One of the biggest challenges is the fact that it is not clear, and because it's not clear, you can't use a Pantone book.
Okay.
And that is a huge challenge. So we have conquered that problem. Okay. Doing by like say trial and error, writing our own new book. Based upon on a different base. So and that is still a very big problem for people who now coming into the industry and saying, oh, that we can do. Culturally, some cultures like different kind of colors in their plastic, and it sounds strange, but it is true, or a different way of touching or feeling, or which might not be so obvious, but you have that in different types. Maybe not if you talk about water bottles, that's similar, but there are a lot of other products which have, because of history, a different color or a different touch, and that's that really determines the quality of the feedstock.
A lot of plastic in the ocean, a lot of plastic in the land blowing into the ocean. What's the feasibility of using this technology to kind of suck up those plastics and to embed them into new products?
Well, basically, you have to look at two things. One, if you look at what is feasible to make this kind of yarns, actually you can only use PET.
Okay.
So high quality yarns can only be made with PET. Now PET can only be from bottles or maybe some food containers or something that kind of products. And PET is heavier than water. So the moment that it ends up in the sea, it sinks. So I would say the bottom of the ocean has a truckload of very expensive feedstock because PET is the most valuable of all the plastics.
Okay.
Having said that, we are more and more busy with all the other plastics because PET is a relatively small percentage. It's already a high sought after product. Prices are going up, and I think the other plastics are in quantity and also in impact, negative impact on the environment, much more heavy, much more terrible actually, because they're not so much recycled as they don't have value yet.
Right.
So we really look at working to find new purposes for the other type of plastic. So at this moment we are making from old refrigerators, old air conditionings, old food containers. We are making recycled plastic textile products. So there are two, styrofoam is something we also now use to make something out of it. It's a very difficult product, but we make it into pellets, and with pellets we then make it into something else, either cups or something like that. So we use it. That's not textiles, but I think we have to find solutions for everything. So we initially start to make textiles, I think, and maybe in 5 to 10 years we do maybe a lot less textiles, I don't know that. But for the outside of the refrigerators, outside of the air conditionings, the food containers, this kind of thing, we can make very nice recycled polypropylene, RPP. And from that RPP we make now big non-woven fabrics and kind of a heavy woven, so thick yarns. It cannot be thin materials, which are excellent for bags, excellent for separations in building sites. These big covers that you see on building sites, and there's a huge demand, which we also, and that I think is the most important, also can use again.
Right.
So we can, after that, we can make from them also the same product.
How did the Chinese import regulation impact your business? Because you take in a lot from outside, you had it in pellets, you had it in different forms. How did that impact your business, and how have you had to adjust since?
Well, it impacted it a lot. First of all, there was initially a shortage, and of course the price went up. So those two things were the first initial reaction. Then the market adjusted a bit. People were really into low-level recycling. We are into high-level recycling. Very big difference. People low-level recycling moved out of China immediately, and they went to other places like India and Malaysia, Philippines, these kind of countries. So then the market adjusted again. Then China relaxed their import rules by stating that it was not just a ban on plastic, it was only a ban on plastic bottles. So if you had a valuable feedstock, and then suddenly they made a classification in what is valuable. Before they never did that. So they said that you have to have flakes this kind of level or pellets this kind of level, then you can import it. So when that happened, other markets started to pelletize and flake, mainly flake, which causes problems in other countries like Malaysia, where now, because of this problem, they have the plastic problem.
Right.
So there is another issue. But at least those flakes come to us, and together with what the feedstock is already coming from China, that's enough for us.
So then how do you see this dynamic where the West sends its plastics to other parts of the world to be processed to then become a valuable feedstock? I mean, is this something that we should stop? Is it something that we should localize in Europe? Is it something that we should really be like thankful for? Like how do you see this?
Well, I see this as something which should be changed. So I'm personally very much involved together with my partner in India to develop a kind of a blueprint of a, well, you could say franchisable plant.
Right.
So a setup of a complete plant which I think should be possible to have in many parts of the world, so that you don't have to transport the plastics anymore anywhere. You just make the product itself close to the plastic in each country, and maybe in each country 2 or 3 times. So we are now busy with doing this for the first time on big scale in Kenya and Africa. Now it's like the value of the plastic when it is taken out of the environment by the local people is actually pretty low. So when you put a plant over there, the economical value of the final outcome, that product goes up, and it returns in that community. So actually you solve poverty over there. You solve, at least you improve livelihoods. Also because of a plant, and that's now what we are seeing in Kenya, and what we are talking about now with Egyptian government, is that because of the plant there is a need for an improved waste management system. Because if you have such a big plant and you don't have a flow from constant feedstock, and the organization which needs to provide that feedstock separate and selected and all those different grades, then the plant has no value. Right. So you create actually a lot of jobs, and you create a whole new industry, and along the way you of course create awareness that people are not throwing it away like in Egypt. In Egypt they are only recycling at this moment 40% of all the waste. They're not recycling, I mean they're only collecting 40% of the waste. Just imagine that 60% of the waste they just throw away. There's no waste management system at all taking that out. So you push by this, bringing that technology, you push that. So you can absolutely have a big impact.
And the markets that you mentioned, most of those governments aren't very strong. Like they're not like a China level strong, where they can make investments, they can make decisions, they can look at that long-term plan. They have 60% of waste management kind of just wherever.
Then, in Egypt, for example, that's a result of the political situation after the Arab Spring. The Mujahideen, the people who were normally taking this out, were actually first taken away. There were corruption, this kind of stuff. So that's the reason. But I must say.
But also, like if you look at India, a large percentage of waste is not brought into a waste management system. Bangkok has been doing pretty well, but a lot of parts of Thailand and Indonesia, it's left up to the communities, and that can be anything in many areas, right? So would you say that now is a great time to be an entrepreneur, to see that challenge and then to drive your solution through? Like, is this the best time for you? Is this a great time? Like, are you really excited about all these challenges, or are you just like, how are we going to do this?
Well, I think I'm a very positive person. And it's a lot of work, but I'm hopeful. And why? Because momentum is changing. The younger generation definitely is behind it. There is an absolute need, because it's so obvious that if we don't do anything, I mean, you trip over it. You go on holiday, you see it, and then you read those stuff that it ends up even in your food. I mean, the discussion is not there anymore. So
right.
I think it's an absolute interesting industry to be in. Also because it's people don't realize that, but if you really go into it and you do it well, it's very profitable.
Okay.
And people really think waste has no value, but waste is very valuable.
Very valuable. Yeah.
People underestimate that.
H&M and Adidas both have got very forward-leaning statements, putting a whole new system in place by 2024, 2025, saying zero new plastics, completely recyclable, everything renewable. And you say that those who can do good. Like, do you think it's possible to scale up at a brand level at this point, or what are the challenges you think that they would face to get that done? Because you're at the ground level on this.
Well, I first of all, I hope that they will achieve it. I'm very skeptical. I also am very skeptical because in none of both of the brands' statements have they ever said how they're going to do it.
Okay.
So it's a very, very difficult thing to do full on, because it will absolutely impact their prices.
Yeah.
And from a competitive standpoint, if they do 100% change, it will impact their competition situation.
But would that be like? Do you think that CEOs now should say like, that's okay? We'll accept that we'll lose sales to be in that position? Like, is that what needs to happen?
Well, I think that should happen, and I also think that we should really look at true cost.
Right.
So how much something really truly costs of the environment. But I'm very sorry, but I think that a company like H&M, with all good intentions, they come out with statements like conscious collection, where the conscious is absolutely not explained. So using this new hot thing with their young demographic, but not explaining it, and I think that is a very, very it's a pity that they do that. There's a lot of things written about this specific point of H&M at this moment. It will hurt them. So I think that's why I'm hopeful. It's at least at this moment a fact that young people do not just take things at face value.
Right.
They really go into it and think, hey, what are you saying? Like, I just don't want to make a very bad statement out of it, but the definition of ocean plastic, if you really look at the definition of ocean plastic, which is used at the top brands of who you just mentioned, it's their definition is 50 kilometers from the beach.
Okay.
So everything from the sea until 50 kilometers inland is ocean plastic.
So Pudong.
But if you look at my country, you have your two cities further.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that is ocean plastic, and then you pay for ocean plastic a premium.
Right. But it could actually be a Coke bottle from a restaurant downtown New York City.
It is.
Yeah.
So I think we really have to start to have some good definitions together. There is so much out there which is not clear. So, and that not being clear makes it so absolutely difficult for the ones who are clear to explain, who are doing the right thing to explain that maybe this is more expensive, or maybe this is what you need to do, or maybe these are the restrictions. You cannot do that bright white because it's not possible. And then you see these brands bringing it in, and I think that's not a good idea, or that cannot even happen. And so I think there should be a lot more education about it on a higher level.
I really saw this with the Starbucks straw, which was they took out the straw, they put it in the cap, and then they give you back a paper straw now as well, right? And everyone's like, oh, great. And then someone realized that actually there's more plastic in the new cap than there was in the old cap and the old straw. But now they're actually coming out saying, actually, that paper straw is bad too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and what I find interesting is, regardless of the intention, It's very difficult, one, to really talk about what you're trying to do. Like the complexity of this challenge, the complexity of the solution is something that very few people have time for, even in our industry.
Yeah.
And actually I find that the treehugger.com, the Grists, like they're the first ones to promote these solutions when they're not. So what are the challenges that like you face in communicating what you're trying to do and how far along you are?
Well, the challenge is that is so unclear that people think that first of all, people think that it is very easy. Yeah, everybody can do it because now it's hot. So now popping up from everywhere, coming people say, "Oh, I do recycled, I do recycled, I do recycled." And even my own customers, they send me photos every other day. They say, "Oh, hey, they also do it," and then we just go into discuss to see. And then it's very often a trading company who uses the photoshopped certificate, or they're very creative with this kind of stuff. So first of all, that is one. Second, I think it's. You have to identify yourself why you are different. Now we had a long road to come there, but now we know.
Yeah.
So one of the most important things, also lately in the last one of the last reports of McKinsey was said, in the recycling industry, the key is traceability and transparency. And
very difficult.
And this traceability and transparency, in our case, is what we completely have, and that sets us apart from anything else. We introduced blockchain in September, and we already had our own patent pending recycled assurance 3 steps thing, where we can really analyze that it is yes or no made out of recycled plastic bottles, specifically bottles.
Okay, great.
So that, I think, the more and more people realize that is actually key, essential, then people will find out that there are only a few players in the market.
Yeah.
And you can put a tracer in a yarn to say, look, this is my yarn, but what you do is you trace the tracer.
Yeah.
You do not prove that it is recycled. So good industry leaders in this field, I believe that they do the right thing, I do, but it is then a standard which I think that's not really, it's not, other people now also put tracers in it.
Yeah, sure.
But how can you prove that?
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, so we can.
Okay. You're an entrepreneur. You've been at this for many years now.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. What's this process like? How has it been building this business? How do you manage scale and impatience, and do you have a process for getting through that?
Well, first of all, you have to be resilient. So it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. There are extremely highs, but there are more lows than the highs. It's true. It's not. And it takes a long time. You have to be patient and be willing to really give up a lot of yourself, a lot of your luxury, if you might say that. I come from a very high-paid job, where I, as a young person, was earning a truckload of money. I have not had that money coming in for 25 years after that. So I mean,
there's hope.
No, but on the other hand, at a certain moment, it's coming, and then now our moment is now. I recently we were in a conference and I heard this beautiful thing what Steve Wozniak says: change comes slowly, and suddenly. So slowly and suddenly. So you have to be prepared. Yeah. And that means that you have to make sure that as an entrepreneur and that you are don't give up, but still building your foundation. Yeah. And stay true to what you believe and your passion, and not because it's a bad situation or a bad political situation or a bad that you give up the thing that you truly believe in. Because I believe that if you truly believe in something and you are executing it right, and then you can scale it up using the right tools, and then it will go like a hockey stick. But the part of the hockey stick
It's a long,
is not
flat.
a hockey stick.
Yeah.
It's actually an ice hockey stick.
Yeah.
With a very long ice flap and a very short up.
Yeah.
So this part
Yep.
is actually, that's the hard part.
Yeah. So actually, I gave a lot of thought to this, as ironically enough, I was running through the streets of TST away from writers, and I was thinking, what is it about each side that's going well and not going well? And I kind of came up with there's these 3 things that I as an entrepreneur need to focus more on, and it would help with that long bit. The first one is emotional control. You mentioned extreme highs, but more lows.
Yeah.
Like, to manage that, you need to be able to control your emotions.
Yeah.
The second one is process. It's your team, it's your technology, it's your product, it's your sales funnel, whatever. And the last one is patience. And if you don't have any of those, or if you're missing one, that flat hockey stick is it just looks jagged, right? And you're not quite sure when you're even going to see that, because you can't see over the next hump. I got to be honest, as an entrepreneur, I have none of those things. Like, I'm working on all 3, but it's like it takes you time to realize that you need those 3 to kind of get through that time.
You need organization, that's for sure, good organization. They're very good. I like the books from Jim Collins, from Good to Great and Great by Choice. I think those are very good books to learn how you should look at business. And then, you have to really, and that's very often against the nature of an entrepreneur, you have to really build structure. Structure and organization.
Yes,
And
very important.
And if you don't have that, then it will never happen.
Right.
So it's very non-entrepreneurial to build structure.
Yeah.
So what you actually should do, you should hire very early on a very good CEO. If you're yourself the CEO, then it will become more challenging.
When did you learn that lesson?
I think over the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so it took you a solid 10 years, 12 years to figure that out.
Yeah, and also because I did. There was also a time in my entrepreneurial life that I didn't need to figure that out, because I also had extreme highs. Actually, before I really started to focus 100% on recycling, I was in the trading business, and it was, maybe I could have been 10 times bigger. Now I realize. But if it's good, it's good.
If it's good, it's good.
Yeah. So, but now I hired my own boss now.
Okay.
So it's a woman, and she will start on the 25th of November.
Okay.
And then I will have a boss.
Okay.
And I am thrilled about that.
Okay.
So, and then I think we will really be able to scale up, because I need to be put in the corner when I want to do things, and I will listen.
Yeah.
No, Monique, we are not going to do that now. We're going to do that then. Or and that structure. I mean, I as a person, I cannot have that, because I get excited and then I start a new venture, or that's me. But that doesn't build a stable global, I would say, $1 billion business, which of course in the end that's what we want.
Okay. If there was 3 things that you were going to tell either a young entrepreneur or someone maybe in the middle of their entrepreneurial journey about what they should be doing, or what they should be facing, or why they should be optimistic, what would they be?
What they should be doing. First, what you should be doing, I think you should join entrepreneurial organizations. So I'm a member of EO, an entrepreneur organization. I became that member 4 or 5 years ago. If I would have become a member 20 years ago, then I would have been much bigger.
Why?
Because there you learn from peers, and you can ask your questions to peers. You are all entrepreneurs, and you have you're actually your own board of directors. So how often as an entrepreneur do you ask yourself in front of the mirror, should I do this? And then you yourself say yes or no.
Yeah.
So if you have 7 people where you ask that and you get a well-valued opinion, you don't make the mistakes that you make. So I would absolutely become member of that.
Okay.
And you can do that even in a very starting situation, in an accelerator. Now there's two. I think what I would say to a young entrepreneur is that you have to always be patient, because you always you get very excited and you see already 10 times the bigger picture, but companies, people, organization are not entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So the moment that you come into contact with somebody you want to sell to, or give service to, or advice to, or whatever your business model may be, that other part is not so entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
So they go to tedious processes in your mind.
Yeah.
They go to extreme inefficient plannings. They go to time spans of which you think, my God, why does it take so long? So, I mean, you all do that.
Oh, how did you know I had that day yesterday?
Yeah. No, but it is because you expect the other part to be like you.
Right.
But they are nothing
They're
like
not.
that.
Yeah.
So, and that you have to learn.
Oh shit! I mean, it's so actually. You're talking about how you wanted a CEO to basically boss you around, and actually, I think what a lot of entrepreneurs are waiting for is when their employees will boss them around. Like they don't realize they're trying to empower their employees to be the organization.
Absolutely.
They don't want to be at the front. They want everyone else, but. You then put that layer on there, like they should be doing like I would. Yeah. Well, that's the wrong way, right? Like and that's actually where I've been, at least with one of my organizations for a while. It's like I hire these amazing people. I'm like, you say you're going to do this, go do it. And then when they don't, they're like, but you didn't help me. And I'm like, but you said you want to do it on your own. Like, and you have this back and forth. And what is it?
I can't expect this.
Yeah, you can't, right?
And if they do it, then they start their own company.
Right.
So, I mean, then they would not work for you.
Yeah.
So there is a skill set which they don't have. If you have an employee, and you can be the best one.
Yeah.
But you're not an entrepreneur. That's different.
Yeah.
And so I think the job of a boss or an entrepreneur, that can be the same, should always be to energize your people, make sure that they feel valued, and to help them achieve their goals, meaning that you give them the right support, education, which you might not need yourself, because you would figure it out yourself because you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But they won't.
Right.
But if they feel